Inside the Deck is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, sellers of Magic the Gathering and many other card and board games. GatheringMagic.com, #1 resource on Magic the Gathering, strategy, and culture.
My name is Jerry Thompson, and today I'm playing in a Legacy tournament using Hypergenesis. Hypergenesis is a Legacy deck built around the Cascade mechanic, and you utilize Shardless Agent and Violent Outburst to only cascade into Hypergenesis. So you can't have anything that is less than 3 mana in your deck, otherwise you would cascade into that instead. You use those to cast Hypergenesis, and then you just drop a bunch of fatties into play, and that's usually good enough to kill your opponent. So the ideal start for this deck would be to have 2 Spirit Guides, either Elvish Spirit Guide or Simian Spirit Guide, a land, and then a Violent Outburst. And you can use that to turn 1, cascade in Hypergenesis, put in like all the fatties you have, maybe have Force of Will and a blue card for protection. Probably the best start is just like Omniscience plus Gristlebrand and Emrakul. That way you get to cast Emrakul, take an extra turn, and just kill your opponent on the next turn. My mana base includes 10 fetches, 3 dual lands, and 3 basic lands. And I'm just playing a rug deck, so blue, red, green. And that allows me to play 1 of each basic to protect against Wasteland, so that if they do counter my Hypergenesis when I play it on turn 1 or turn 2, I can like rebuild my mana base and then play another one a few turns later. Mana base is just super smooth. Only have to play 16 lands because you're only playing a 3 mana spell in your deck, and you have those Spirit Guides to help out. So the mana base is pretty good, very resilient. For spells, I have Force of Will and Misdirection for protection, Show and Tell and Hypergenesis to put big things into play. Then Violent Outburst and Shardless Agent. Shardless Agent, just a creature, but like basically just functions as a cascade. The 2/2 is kind of irrelevant. And then I have Omniscience as a thing that I can play off Show and Tell or Hypergenesis to use to just cast my guys. My creatures include the Spirit Guides, which I very rarely cast. It's only just like in the worst possible scenario where you have nothing going on that you want to cast those guys. But Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, Gristlebrand, those are the best cards, the best fatties in the game that you can use to win. And then I have Progenitus and Terastodon, which are not very good, but unfortunately you can only play 4 Emrakuls and 4 Gristlebrands, so I have those in there. Progenitus is important because it's a blue card, so it pitches to Force of Will, and Terastodon is there to just kill annoying permanents like Ensnaring Bridge, something that might otherwise stop you from winning. My sideboard starts with 4 Leyline of Sanctity, and that's just for any deck with Thoughtseize, Hymn to Turok, or even a combo deck that might try and kill you with like Tendrils of Agony or something, just to slow them down for that turn until, like, you might be like a turn slower if you don't have enough Spirit Guides, so you kind of want that little buffer. And then I have 4 Dismembers that are just used to kill Thalia, Aethersworn Canonist, any problematic creature that might be stopping me from casting my combo. And then I have some Ingatures to kill Thorn of Amethyst, Chalice of the Void on 0, which would counter Hypergenesis. Trinosphere might be kind of annoying, things like that. And then I have 2 City of Traders that are kind of like multi-purpose, where if you play against a deck with a bunch of like Wastelands, Stifles, Spell Pierces, stuff like that, like cities help you pay for those soft counters. And also there are things like Thalia where like you need to play like Violent Outburst and pay an extra 1, and then pay an extra 1 on the Hypergenesis, so you just need ways to have like excess mana. So those help out a lot. And then it's another way to like cast Show and Tell on turn 2 also. And then I have the Force Show and Tell against decks that have ways to interact with like Cascade and Hypergenesis. Either they have Chalice or Thalia, something like that. Show and Tell is just like more consistent. And it's not as powerful because you only put in 1 thing, and they might put in like an Oblivion Ring also. So then they get to take your thing. But I feel like that it's like good anti-hate, basically. And then I have a 4th Misdirection, which is also for Hymn to Turok and other blue decks where you're going to be getting into Counter Wars. So far today, there hasn't been too much craziness, just like, you know, me kind of like comboing out on turn 2 and turn 3 around there, and then them just losing. You know, like they can't beat an Emrakul in play, or they can't beat a Gristlebrand or Progenitus or whatever, and that's kind of how it goes because a lot of decks aren't set up to just like, you know, be able to deal with those creatures. They're very tough to kill. But I had like a potential turn 1 kill, but I was on the draw. My opponent played a Thorn of Amethyst, so that slowed me down, and then I ended up drawing another mana source on turn 4 and then killed him that turn. But I don't know. I've had some like really weird games with other versions of this deck. Before Shardless Agent was printed, you had to play like Violent Outburst and Ardent Plea, which made your deck 4 colors. So then I played some of the Invasion sack lands like Irrigation Ditch. And then there were games with that deck where I would actually just like sack all my lands and cast my creatures. So that was like pretty weird, but this deck has none of that. It's like all pretty straightforward. This type of deck is not for everyone. Like there are people, including myself, that really want to be able to interact with their opponent and stop what they're doing and things like that. But just for this weekend, like I said, I was like just kind of sick of it, like grinding it out with the mid-range blue decks. So if you're looking for something fun, if you want to like hardcast Emrakul, if you want to draw a bunch of cards with Gristlebrand, if you want to just put a million things into play on turn one, like then this is the deck for you. This is what you should be playing in Legacy, because no deck does this type of thing like bigger or better. Like this is the high end. Like this is all you're gonna get in Legacy. So this is what you should be playing.